The door exploded open before I could even reach it. Wood cracked, lock snapped, and a woman's voice cut through the dark like a siren. HOA inspection. I have a master key. She stormed inside in pajamas and heels, waving some laminated card in my face, breathing fast, eyes wild. I was still half asleep, barefoot, heart racing, when she pointed at me and shouted, "You're in violation. You don't belong here, and I can enter any time I want." I raised my hand slowly, trying to keep my voice calm. But behind me, I felt the air change. A low growl rolled through the hallway, deep and controlled, not loud but dangerous. Her confidence cracked for 1 second as two shadows moved in the dark. "What is that?" she whispered. I didn't answer. The dog stepped forward, silent, trained, eyes locked on her like lasers. She laughed nervously and said, "Call them off or I'll have you arrested." "I'm the HOA president," looked at her and finally said the only thing that mattered. "Ma'am, this is not an HOA house, and they're not pets." Her smile came back, fake and sharp. "Everyone says that when they're scared," she said, pulling her phone out and hitting record. "Look at this, trespasser with attack dogs." She walked 1 step closer, waving that fake card again like a badge. The dogs didn't move, but I felt their bodies tense, waiting for my signal. I told her quietly, "You should leave." She laughed and kicked a broken piece of the door with her heel. "You don't tell me anything. I decide who lives here." Then she did the worst thing possible. She raised her hand and snapped her fingers at the dogs. "Shoo, go!" That's when one of them took a slow step forward. Not barking, not jumping, just pure control. Her voice dropped. "Why are they not reacting?" I looked at the camera in her hand and said, "Because they're trained to wait for threats, not noise." Her face went pale. But instead of backing off, she hit a different number on her phone and said, loud enough for the whole street to hear, "Hello? Yes, police. There's an aggressive man with illegal dogs inside my HOA property. I think he's dangerous." I stayed quiet, because I knew exactly who she was calling wasn't the real police. The fake sirens came fast, way too fast for 4 a.m. Red and blue lights washed over the walls, but something felt wrong. No dispatch call, no radio noise, just 2 black SUVs sliding into the driveway like they owned the place. She smirked and whispered, "Told you." 2 men stepped out in cheap uniforms. No name tags, no body cams, just shiny badges that looked new. One of them shouted, "Hands up! Step away from the animals." I noticed the dogs didn't react to them at all. No alert, no tension. That was my first real clue. I raised my hand slowly and said, "Which department?" The taller one ignored me and tried to push past her into the house. That's when one of my dogs finally growled, deep and sharp. The man froze. Karen looked confused. "Why are they acting like this?" I said calmly. "Because they're trained to detect stress, lies, and threat levels." The shorter fake cop whispered, "This isn't worth it," but Karen snapped, "Do your job." "Arrest him!" The tall one grabbed my arm, and I leaned close and said low and clear, "You picked the wrong house to play police." His grip tightened, but his hands were shaking now. Not strong shaking, nervous shaking. The kind you get when a plan is falling apart in real time. I looked at Karen and said, "Did you even ask them for a case number?" She frowned. "I don't need one. I run this community." I nodded slowly. "That's funny. Because my camera's already sent everything to a secure server." The shorter fake cop's eyes went wide. "What server?" I smiled a little. "The one monitored by people who don't like fake badges." Karen laughed again, but her voice cracked this time. "You're bluffing." I whistled once, low and short. The dogs didn't move, but every camera light in the hallway turned red at the same time. The tall man let go of my arm. "We need to leave," he whispered. Karen spun on him. "No! You said this was easy." I stepped back and said, "Easy houses don't have K9 units on night rotation." She stared at the dogs, then at the men, then at the cameras. And for the first time since she kicked my door, she looked truly scared. The viral line of the night hit her late. Power only works on people who believe it. She finally understood it when the real sirens arrived. Not the cheap ones, not the fake lights, but the kind that made the whole street wake up. The 2 men tried to back away, but my dogs stepped forward together, blocking the exit without a sound. Karen's phone slipped from her hand and hit the floor. "This isn't how it was supposed to go," she whispered. The real officers walked in, looked at the broken door, the fake badges, the cameras, and then at me. I said one sentence and everything changed. "These people broke into my home and tried to impersonate police." Karen started crying, shouting about HOA power and master keys, but nobody listened anymore. One of the real cops asked her for ID. She didn't have anything real. The two men were cuffed first. Then Karen. As they walked her out, she looked back at me and said, "You ruined my life." I shook my head. "No, you just tried to control the wrong house." Later that morning, while they replaced my door, one officer asked about the dogs. I smiled and said, "They're not mine." He raised an eyebrow. I added quietly, "They belong to the federal unit that owns this property." That was the last twist. The HOA never came back, and the viral line people kept sharing was simple. I didn't need to fight her. I just let the truth bite first.